All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about a philosophy that has completely changed how millions of people see their finances. And look, this isn't about those get-rich-quick schemes you see everywhere. It's about a deep, fundamental shift in your thinking, straight from the classic rich dad, poor dad.
So it really all boils down to this one simple but super powerful idea. On one side, you got the advice we all hear. Get a good education, find a secure job, and work for your money. But on the other side, a totally different way of thinking. You should make your money work for you. This single contrast is the key to literally everything else we're going to talk about.
So to really get this, we've got to meet the two figures at the center of this whole thing. The two dads who pretty much personify these opposite ways of looking at the world. And this is where things get really interesting, because it just flips everything we think we know on its head. The poor dad was brilliant, highly educated, had a PhD, but struggled with money his whole life. The rich dad didn't even finish high school, but became one of the wealthiest men in his state. What this really tells us is that your success with money has very little to do with your school grades and a whole lot to do with your financial education.
Yeah, see, the poor dad thought a steady paycheck was the definition of security, but the rich dad saw it completely differently. He believed that depending on one single source of income, your job, is actually one of the riskiest positions you can be in. I mean, think about it. That really challenges the whole idea of job security, doesn't it?
All right, now let's get to what is probably the single most important rule for building wealth. And you know what? It's actually incredibly simple. It's all about truly understanding the difference between two little words, assets and liabilities. Seriously, that's it. Forget all that complicated financial jargon for a second. An asset is just something that generates income for you. It puts money in your pocket, whether you're working or not. Think a rental property bringing in rent each month, or stocks paying you dividends. It's all about that positive cash flow.
And yeah, you guessed it. On the flip side, a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. It's a constant drain on your finances. Think about your car payment, the credit card bill, all those subscriptions adding up, anything that just sucks cash away from you. The whole game is to buy assets and get rid of liabilities.
Which of course leads us to the big one, the question that always gets people talking. We're all told our home is our biggest asset. But is it? I mean, based on the simple definitions we just went over, is it really putting money in your pocket? And boom, here's the answer that kind of blows people's minds. For most of us, our home is a liability, not an asset. Now why? Well, think about it. Every single month, it's taking money out of your pocket for the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Now, it could become an asset if you sold it for a profit or rented it out, but as long as you're living in it and it's costing you money, it's a liability. A really powerful, game-changing idea. Okay, so knowing the rules is one thing, right? But it's not enough. We have to talk about the psychology behind it. You know, the inner game that stops most people from actually following these simple rules. And it really comes down to two super powerful emotions that just run the show: fear and greed. Fear is what keeps people stuck in jobs they hate, the fear of not being able to pay the bills. And then greed kicks in, making people impatient. It causes them to chase those risky, get-rich-quick investments, and that's usually where they lose big time. If you want to master money, you first have to master these emotions. And this slide, it just perfectly captures how your mindset shapes your world. When faced with a problem, one person sees a wall, a roadblock, a reason to just give up. But another person with a different mindset sees that exact same situation and finds an opportunity, a chance to learn something new, to create a solution, to build something. Your perspective really is everything. And you know, at the end of the day, all that fear, that greed, that negative thinking, it all comes from one place: just a lack of financial knowledge. You fear what you don't understand. So financial freedom isn't really about getting a raise, it's about raising your financial IQ.
So, the big question is, how do you get that knowledge? How do you actually build what this philosophy calls your financial intelligence?
Well, it's built on 4 key pillars. First up, accounting. You just have to know how to read the numbers. It's the language of money. Then, investing. which is the science of making your money make more money. Third, you need to understand markets, basically supply and demand. And finally, you got to know a little bit about the law, especially around taxes and corporations to play the game effectively. And here's a huge piece of advice that goes along with that. Start working to learn, not just to earn. Instead of just chasing a bigger salary, look for jobs that will teach you invaluable skills. Things like sales, marketing, communication, leadership. These are the skills that will help you build your asset column for the rest of your life, long after any one paycheck is gone. All right, so all of this, the mindset, the knowledge, the skills, it all leads to one place, the end game. The reason we're even talking about any of this.
Just take a look at this. It says it all, right? The poor dad model has one stream of income, a salary from a job. And if that gets cut off, you're in big trouble. But the rich dad approach, it's all about building multiple streams of income. From your business, from your investments, from real estate. That's what creates real, lasting security.
So with all this talk about assets, what's the single most valuable one you already have? It's not money, it's time. The earlier you start learning this stuff and putting it into practice, the more powerful compounding can be. You don't need a ton of cash to get started, but you do need to start now.
And this is what it's all for. This is the goal. Financial freedom isn't about being lazy or sitting on a beach doing nothing, unless you want to. It's about getting to a point where your assets are generating enough income to cover all your living expenses. When that happens, work becomes a choice. You work because you love it, not because you have to.
So if you take away just one thing, let it be this. The core message of this whole philosophy is simple. Most people spend their lives being controlled by money, being its slave. The goal is to flip that script, learn the rules, and finally make money your servant. So in the end, it's really a choice. You've got two different playbooks, two different voices giving you advice. One path is what everyone else does. It seems safe. The other path, well, it requires you to think differently. So the question I want to leave you with is, which path are you going to choose? Which dad are you going to listen to?